Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 32nd annual meeting and our second seminar series. I'm Tina Parskell from the Colorado Community College System, and it's my honor to kick off our second seminar series. The next 2 weeks promise to be engaging and informative with many different topics and sessions in which to participate. Couple housekeeping items before I introduce our keynote. In order to make the most of the meeting, I recommend that everyone check out the different ways to network and learn within the event platform, including visiting the exhibit hall, the various working groups, and different networking events. If you're into social media, our hashtag is hashtag WCET2020. We also hope that you join us for daily networking, our general sessions, 2 blocks of breakout sessions, and open forums. The program has a lot of flexibility, so please participate where you can. Each day within the online platform called FeedLoop, we'll have daily updates with highlights, next steps for working groups, and we'll announce the point leaders for the gamification. So see that gamification tab for more information. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to our amazing keynote speaker this morning. Jaime Casap served as the Chief Education Evangelist for Google for more than 14 years and was the second member of the Google for Education team. During that time, Jaime launched Google's G Suite tools into higher ed and K through 12. He also launched Chromebooks into education and was the creator for Google Education Transformational Framework, which is a holistic approach to education transformation. Now Jaime is partnering and collaborating with higher education institutions, school systems, and businesses around the world, helping them build transformational policies and practices to elevate education and bring equity, diversity, and inclusion into their policies and practice. It's a very timely thing. Jaime also serves as an advisor to dozens of organizations focused on learning, skill development, and the future of work. He is the co-author of our first Talk About Poverty, which is a way to talk to children about poverty. He is currently working on his next book, which will focus on his journey from ghetto to Google, what it takes to be successful. He speaks on education, digitalization, diversity and inclusion, generation, and the future of work at events around the world. You can follow him and reach out on Twitter at @jcapson and watch his YouTube career advice videos, which are amazing, at www.youtube.com, Jaime Casap. So without further ado, I'd like to say, welcome, Jaime, and take the helm.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, everyone. Good morning. Good morning to, hopefully my clock is right. Here in Arizona, we never change our clock, so I never know what time it is for about 2 or 3 weeks. So I want to start off by welcoming you to my studio here in Phoenix, Arizona. This is where I do most of my work. I want to welcome you to what appears to be an interesting week of elections. I'm sure that's on everyone's mind and what's happening, but whatever happens tomorrow, education doesn't really change. We still got a lot of things to work on. We still have a lot of issues to deal with. We still have this idea of what the future looks like. So what I wanted to spend time this morning doing is 2 things. One is kind of laying out what is happening in the education space, talking about what is coming, what's happening with the future, what does the future of work look like, what are the skills that our students need as we move forward, and then I want to spend some time answering questions. So as I'm speaking and you have questions, or you might already have questions now, jot those down, because I want to spend a good chunk of time going through what those questions are and making sure that I'm answering those questions. And obviously, if there's things that you want to comment on or say along the way on Twitter, make sure you're tagging me as well. It's just that JCASAP on Twitter. So let's do that as well. All right. So let me start by saying this, is that I think that what we're experiencing is the hockey stick growth of digitalization. Digitalization is something that has been happening to us for a very long time. And what I mean by digitalization, I mean everything that has to do with computer science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, AR, VR, automation, robotics, all that, anything that's programmable, the Internet of Things, all those things in that package is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about digitalization. And we have been in this gradual growth when it comes to digitalization. It's just come at us very slowly. Take supermarkets, for example, right? We went from having a cashier ring up something on a cash register and labeling cans of goods with label guns to scanning things to self-service. It's all happened slowly over time, gradually. And the same is true with any other kind of industry that you can think about or talk about. Now, I think what's happening now is that we're going to have a hockey stick growth of digitalization. But what we need to start with is this idea that we are at the very, 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 very beginning of digitalization. We are, as much as we think technology is cool today, as much as we see everything that we have in front of us, as much as, you know, you and I are speaking via all this great technology, we're at the very beginning of this. And I can't emphasize that enough. You know, we are cavemen and women compared to where we're going to be with technology. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. Right before I left Google, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but right before I left Google, we had a breakthrough in quantum computing. And I'm not going to get into defining quantum computing and what it is, but this is the example that I want to give you. If you take one of those mathematical equations and fed it to a supercomputer, you know, one of the world's most powerful supercomputers, it would take that supercomputer 10,000 years to process that equation, right? One of those that spins on forever, you know, 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. It would take 10,000 years to process the equation that you feed that world's most powerful supercomputer. The breakthrough that Google had was that they were able to do it in 300 seconds. So 10,000 years versus 300 seconds. You know, what's in between those two worlds? We're at the we're at 10,000 years right now, right? Because that breakthrough in quantum computing was a one-time breakthrough using gigantic servers and data centers with, you know, people in lab coats. It wasn't on your MacBook Pro, but one day it might be, or it will be. It's just a matter of time. So that breakthrough is a great example of where we're headed with digitalization. We're talking Star Trek stuff here. We're talking things that we can't even imagine. We're going to look back at this time period and look at technology and look at the digitalization tools that we have as if we were looking back at caveman days, right? That's where we are today with digitalization. We're at the very beginning of this. And I believe that this gradual growth that we've had, and look, I was at Google for 15 years, right? So I launched Google Apps for Education into the university space. I launched Google Apps into K-12. I launched Chromebooks into education. I watched digitalization in education grow slowly over those 15 years from, you know, in higher ed, where at the time, like 50% of students were bringing laptops to universities, to school, and there were still computer labs, and I know there's still many computer labs at universities, but you're watching that number from 50% grow up to, you know, 99%, if not 100% of students bringing laptops on campus. In K-12, I watched it grow from, you know, maybe a computer lab, or you would take a computer class for an hour every month, all the way to now one-on-one systems where, look what we're doing with the pandemic, where students have to have technology just to learn. I've watched that growth slowly over the past 15 years. And that same growth is true in all industries. We just don't talk about it as much as we do in education, right? We don't say, you know, when you go to the bank, you don't say, I wonder what kind of bank tech people are using, right? When you go to the dry cleaner, you don't talk about dry cleaning tech. Technology has just been integrated into those industries. And in education, we're still talking about ed tech. We're still talking about a separate thing. For some reason, we think education is this very analog system, and then we introduce technology. But the technology is now integrated in what we do, and I've watched that over 15 years. But what I have noticed during the pandemic is that you're going to see an even faster growth of digitalization across all industries, and especially in education. If you look at the world and what's happened over the last 6 to 8 months from a business owner's perspective, from a CEO's perspective, from a COO's perspective, no matter what size, whether you're a university or whether you're a nonprofit or whether you're a business, no matter if you're a $1 billion company or you make a couple $100,000 a year. If you're good at what you do and you look at your business and think about the number one risk to your business, what was the experience that you've had over the last 6 to 8 months? The biggest risk to your business were people, humans doing what I call process work. Humans gathered to do the same kind of work. Humans gathered to do manufacturing or shipping or even call center, right? Putting people in the same space to do work was a huge risk. Now, if you're a business owner or CEO, what you're going to try to do, if you're good at what you do, is minimize risk as much as possible. And so what you're going to do is you're going to eliminate as much as you possibly can that human process work, because you don't want to rely on humans to do that, because what the pandemic showed us is that you can't gather them in the same space. You don't want that to happen again, because it could just be another virus in 2 weeks and we can go through this all over again. And so you're going to minimize that risk. And so what you're seeing is, and right now, I can guarantee you in tech rooms around the world, you have technologists with strategy plans on how to minimize that risk. And so you're going to see this hockey stick growth of automation, digitalization, computer science, machine learning, artificial intelligence. Those things are going to try to replace the human aspects of that work. And you're seeing it happen already, right? So the supermarket example, you go to South Korea now or Singapore, and there are no more people working in those supermarkets. Those are now automated systems, right? So you buy your stuff, you put it in your bag, and you either check yourself out, or like the Amazon store, where you gather you just take things off your shelf and you put it in your bag, and then you walk out of the store and it automatically scans it for you that way, right? So you can see a time where you can walk into a supermarket, take what you need off of the shelf and put it in your bag, and then just as you're walking out, your grocery cart gets scanned, your bags get scanned, and you don't need people interacting in those jobs at all, right? That's happening today. You can see that in supermarkets, you can see that in movie theaters, you can see that happen where there's people, where you can eliminate people from the process work, repetitive process work. So if that's true, and it is, what we need to do is think about what we're teaching our students, both in K-12 and higher ed. What is it that we're giving our students? And my argument is, if we are teaching students things that machines are going to do better, are we teaching them the right stuff? Are we helping them advance in their life, in their career, and what they do for work, if we're teaching them things that machines can do better or will do better? So it's almost like we need to predict the things that machines are going to be able to do so that we can focus on what our students really need. And so what I think we need to do in that world where machines are going to do a lot of this type of work is we need to double down on the human skills. And we need to really focus on teaching our students these skills that are going to be absolutely necessary and critical in this digitalized world. And I call these skills, we used to call these things 21st century skills. And they're no longer 21st century skills. These are absolutely critical skills needed right now. As a matter of fact, if you want to trigger me, call them soft skills. These are essential. problem solving, critical thinking, collaboration, the ability to learn, and creativity. These are the most important things that we need to focus on for our students. That's where we need to focus on, because we have to make sure that they can do the things that they need to do using digitalization. So there's two things going on here. Number one is making sure that our students are developing those human skills, the ones that we just talked about. I'm going to talk about them more in a minute, but those human skills are critical. And at the same time, we need to teach them digitalization, right? I'm not saying that everyone needs to go out and become a computer scientist, although that would be nice because we need lots of computer scientists. What I'm saying is that they need to understand digitalization. They need to understand how it works. They need to understand what they can do with it, because whatever solution they come up with, whatever problem they tackle, it will have a digitalization component to it, no matter what it is. And everything's going to have that component to it. And so teaching them these skills, teaching them how digitalization works, teaching them why it works and what you can do with it, and artificial intelligence and machine learning and where it's going and where it's headed is absolutely critical, because they're going to take that knowledge, use the skills that we're going to help them develop to create the solutions that we need. And that's essential, because if they don't understand these things, if they don't understand how they work, then they're never going to come up with the best solutions, right? So I'm sitting here in downtown Phoenix, and if I needed to get to the airport, for example, and I had to come up with a solution to get me from downtown Phoenix to the airport, if I don't know that cars exist, am I going to come up with the best solution? Am I going to have the best solution to get me to the airport, right? I might come up with a great way to walk to the airport, or I might come up with a great way to ride a bike to the airport. I'll come up with maps and ways of doing it, and it would be great. But would I come up with the best solution? And the answer is no, if I don't know that cars exist. And so what we need to do is teach them about these things and how they work. And I think, in my opinion, we've given this generation a pass. They show up at our universities, and we call them digital leaders. We call them digital natives. We say that they were just born with technology and they just naturally know how to use it. And it's just not true. They don't know how to use these tools. They don't know anything about these things. As a matter of fact, we've given them a pass. We tell them that they're good at these tools, and they're not. I mean, I'm talking about basic level things here, right? This idea that, they don't know how to search, right? There's a great Stanford study from 2016 where elementary school kids can't tell you the difference between a sponsored website and a news site. In 2019, a study that high school kids, 80% of high school kids couldn't pick out a fake story out of 4 or 5 stories presented to them, right? That's the level of digitalization knowledge that they know, which is nothing. And so how are we going to get them to understand artificial intelligence and machine learning and computational thinking and engineering principles and design principles and all these things if they're typing question marks into the search bar, which tells me that they're bad searchers? So just basic stuff that we need to double down on in terms of making sure that we give them the baseline language, understanding and language of what digitalization is, where it's headed and what you can do with it. And at the same time, understanding those human skills. When my 6-year-old, like this morning, got up and went to school, that's what I think about. I could care less what the subjects are. I could care less what lessons she's learning. What I want her to be able to know how to do is I want her to know how to problem solve and be a critical thinker and have the ability to learn and be creative. The subject doesn't matter to me. What matters is that she's learning how to do those things inside the subjects, right? So sure, teach her history, teach her, teach her world history or social studies, but teach her those skills in that process. My 19-year-old is at ASU right now, and the same thing is true for him. He's taking 5 or 6 different classes, And I don't care what the subjects are. I don't care how he scores on a test about a knowledgeable thing about world history or whatever class he's taking. I want him to know how to problem solve and critically think and collaborate. That's what I want him to learn how to do inside that context of whatever subject it is that they teach. What he gets in a multiple choice test, I could care less about, and we should all care less about. We are at a time now where it's important to focus on doubling down on those human skills. And again, I don't think we should call them 21st century skills anymore because, you know, we're 20 years into the 21st century. So we should probably give that up. Also, when we say 21st century skills, it makes us think of something that's way down there. You're like, oh, you need to build these skills for the future. And no, my 6-year-old needs those today, right now. Not in the 21st century, whenever that is, even though we're 20 years in, she needs to learn those skills now. So now let's look at that list of skills. If you would ask me 9 months ago, which one is more important than the other, I would have told you that they're all important. But the truth is that there is a priority list to them. I believe that the most important thing that we can focus on right now in both K-12 and in higher education is the ability to learn. The ability to learn is absolutely critical given not just the pandemic, but this world that we face. The world where you go to a university and get a degree in a subject and you become an expert in that subject is gone. We know that it's been gone for years. We still aren't really facing the idea that it's gone, but those days are gone. What we need is the ability to continuously learn. And so we should start building those skills. And the truth is in K-12, we don't do that. We don't teach kids how to learn. We control, we comply. There's guidance of like, you need to write a 5-page paper and it has to be double spaced and the 12 points and whatever, right? We do that with our students. And then we send them to higher ed and they don't know how to actually learn by themselves. So I think that the most important thing that we can teach our students is this idea of the ability to learn, because it's not necessarily, it's skills that you develop, but it's really a mindset. And it stays with us forever. I can't tell you how many adults I meet who say things like, you know, I'm not very creative. Or, this is what I hear in my space a lot, I'm sure you do too, I'm not good with technology. I don't get it. I'm just not good with technology. And my response to those folks, and this is why I don't have a lot of friends, my response is, no, you've chosen not to be creative. You've chosen not to be good with technology, because everything that you need to learn to be good at technology is out there for you. It's a choice that you're making not to do it. And that's okay. That's your choice. But don't say you're not good at it or you just haven't really, learned technology. It's a choice. And saying, I've chosen not to be good with technology. I've chosen to make your world miserable because I'm going to complain about the fact that I can't use technology. I've chosen that to be my life, and just live with that choice, because everything that you need is out there. And it's a mindset that shifts, especially for our students, from I'm not very creative to I'm going to learn how to be creative, or I'm learning to be creative. Or I'm not good with technology to I need to learn how to be good with technology. Here's how I can learn how to be better with technology. It's literally that easy to do. And it's that mindset. And it doesn't have to be for everything. Like I can say, I never say I'm a bad cook. I say I've chosen not to be a good cook. I can make pizza. I made pizza for dinner last night. I take the crust, throw some tomato sauce on, cheese, some tomatoes, some vegetables. I can make a great pizza. You ask me to make something complicated, I can't do it because I've chosen not to learn how to be a good cook. Not that I'm a bad cook, I just chosen not to be a good one. And it's this mindset, this change that our students need to think about the world that way. Adults need it too. Because I'll give you an example. When I'm a photographer, if you go to my Instagram account, you'll see some of my photography that's out there, and just everyday pictures, but also photography. When I launched my YouTube channel a year and a half ago, I went to my oldest daughter, who has a degree in film, who actually works in the industry. And actually, she works at CNN. She makes fake news. And I said to her, I want to start a YouTube channel, and I don't know anything about videography. Again, I'm a photographer. I've had good cameras. I didn't know that camera had a record button. I didn't know what you could do with, I mean, I would record clips on my phone, but that was it. I knew nothing about videography. And I said to her, I'm going to start my YouTube channel. Where do I start? What help me start somewhere? And, you know, she laughed for 10 minutes about me starting a YouTube channel. And then she said, okay, this is where you start. You don't need to shoot in 4K, shoot at 1080. Make sure you keep your frame rate at 24 frames per second. And then you're gonna have to double your shutter speed. And so that's around 50 because most cameras don't have 48, not the regular cameras. And you wanna keep your ISO at 100 because you don't wanna introduce a lot of noise. And so that should be your setting. And if you go outside, it's gonna blow out your exposure. So you're gonna need a variable ND filter so that you can change the light that comes in and filter some of that light in. And I said, cool, thank you so much for that information. Here's my next question. What the hell do any of those words mean? And in a year and a half or year and 3 months that I've launched my YouTube channel, I can have debates about why the Sony the S7R III is better than the new Canon camera, or whether I should shoot in 420 or 420, and whether I should shoot on an external recorder or just shoot on an internal recorder, or whether I should use digital analog signaling or analog signaling on its own on an external audio recorder. Because I've learned how to do those things. And if you watch my YouTube videos, the first couple of them look like hostage videos, and the last couple of them look better, and they're going to keep getting better. I've chosen to be good at video. I've chosen to be good at creating YouTube content. That's what I've chosen to do, and everything that I need to learn is out there. That's a mindset, this idea that we need to teach our kids, this idea that they are always going to need to learn. And part of this is generational, part of it is culture, right? I remember sitting there in the computer lab when I typed up my last 60-page paper when I was getting my master's degree in public policy. I remember sitting in that computer lab on my WordPerfect 5.1 machine, sending my last paper, hit the print button, sending it to the dot matrix printer. So I had a good 45 minutes to kill. And I remember sitting there thinking, I am done. I'm done learning. I don't ever have to do this again. It wasn't true 25 years ago. It is absolutely not true today. So this idea, this mindset of the ability to learn, and I think we're doing it a disservice by giving them milestones. We're saying to them, learn this so you can take a test so that you can pass or fail. And then they're supposed to be done with it. So we give them these ideas that they take a subject and then we give them a grade for that subject as if they're done learning that subject, right? We have to change the whole thing so that our students feel like they're constantly learning and that they're always learning. And then the last one, and then I want to start, making sure that I leave enough time to answer questions that you guys have. This last thing that I want to focus on is this generation and how they are the problem-solving generation. And given all the factors, the fact that this is a problem-solving generation, given the fact that, the world seems to be blowing up on a daily basis, given the fact that the jobs of the future are constantly changing and shifting, right? Keep in mind that there's no way to prepare for these jobs. There isn't. I graduated high school. I graduated college, I graduated graduate school, and there was no way for me to prepare for a job working at Google because it didn't exist. As a matter of fact, there was no way for me to prepare for a job on the internet because the internet didn't exist. 10,000 years, 300 seconds. What doesn't exist today? Many, 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 many things. And so focusing on this idea of a career or a job doesn't make any sense. So we have to stop asking our students what they want to be when they grow up. And instead ask them what problem they want to solve. What's the problem that they want to focus on? And it doesn't have to be a social change issue. It doesn't have to be, solving climate change. It could be anything. It could be making better cars, better microphones, better lights. It could be whatever they're passionate about. If you watch Shark Tank, everyone who walks into that tank is solving a problem. Most of the time they're solving a problem you didn't even know you had until you saw the product. What problem do you want to solve is where we want to focus. That's our sweet spot. Because the second question, and this comes back to the students and this idea of creating these human skills, these individual human skills, is how do you want to solve it? How do you want to take your gifts, your talents, your experiences and solve that problem? Because if a student comes to you, if a university student comes to you and says, I want to solve climate change, you might be inclined right off the bat to say, oh, climate change. Okay, well, you need to study environmental science. You need to get a degree in global sustainable development. You need to, whatever it is, you need to study STEM and take all these science. Sure, there's probably a million ways to solve the problem on those tracks. But what if that student is an amazing photographer? What if that student is an amazing filmmaker? What if that student is an amazing storyteller? And the way they can solve climate change is by going out and documenting climate change and telling stories about climate change and making films about climate change. And maybe they're a gifted educator like my 19-year-old is. And the way he can solve climate change is by going out and creating an educational program about climate change. The point is that there are millions of ways to solve a problem today. And what we need our students to be able to do through self-assessment, self-awareness is understand what their gifts are, what their talents are to solve that problem. When my daughter came to me when she was, starting university, and she said, I decided that I'm going to be a business major. And I was shocked by business major. I'm like, business, what? Why business major? And she said, well, I looked at the jobs of what I wanted, kind of areas that I'm interested in, focus in. And I think that this is the best place for me to have the widest net to find work in what I'm interested in. And this is a kid who had been making movies since she was 5 years old. Literally, whatever machine she can find, she was making movies since she was 5 years old. And so when she said, I want to be a business major, I said, nope, not paying for that. This is a weird parenting thing. I said, if you go be a film major, if you go be an art major, I will pay for that. And so she did, because there are no job wanted ads for wanted director for motion picture, wanted director for a documentary. Those jobs don't exist that way. And so I said, I will cover you if you go be an art major. And she did, got a degree in film, and is kicking butt at CNN, making some unbelievable film. Because the problem that she wants to solve, she can solve through what she's good at, which is filmmaking. And so how you want to solve a problem is interesting. And then the third question we ask our students is, what do you need to know to solve that problem? What are the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities that you need to have to solve that problem? And how do you start developing those knowledge, skills, and abilities? What do you need to learn? What classes are you need to take? What internships do you need to do? Who can you start partnering with? That is as critical as the other two questions, because if we can put them on a track of the things that they need to learn, whether that is the subject that they're interested in or the skills that they want to develop, then all of a sudden they can start looking at work and projects as skill development. So that student who's a great photographer, who's interested in sustainable development or climate issues, their first job, or that they might find an internship taking pictures of used cars at Larry's used car lot. And they'll say, wait, that's not in line with climate change, but it is. It's developing photography skills that she's going to be able to use in taking environmental pictures when she starts building a resume in that space. So those three questions, to me, are the most important questions that we can be asking our students. And that's where I think the value proposition of higher education is being able to say to students, and I wish every university's webpage said this, which is right on the front page, it should say, what problem do you want to solve? Come here and we will help you solve it. It's a partnership. Come here and we'll help you solve it. What's the problem that you want to solve? That's value proposition number one, is that we can dive deep into that problem. We can dive deep into understanding it. We have experts in those areas that can give you so much information. How do you want to solve it? We're gonna help you identify who you are and what you believe in and what you like and what you're good at. We're gonna do assessments. We're gonna do coaching. We're gonna put you with other people who are interested in the same things you're interested in. And we have all the expertise, all the classes, all the experiences that you need to be good at whatever problem it is that you want to solve. That to me is the value proposition of higher education. And I think that's what we need to focus. And the last thing that I'll say about what we need to do in this space is this idea that the value proposition of higher education to me is the lifelong learning model. If we can teach our students how to learn and at the same time offer them the opportunity to learn forever, and by giving them continuing education, by giving them the opportunity to always come back and learn more, by giving them the opportunity to go online and learn, I think that to me is the kind of relationship that we want to build with students so that they can be the problem-solving generation that they are designed to be. And with that, I will pause and I will answer any questions that you guys might have.
Excellent. Thank you. If you have questions, please be sure to put them into the chat. And I'll start with a question that came to mind, Jimmy, as you were talking. You know, I agree with you in terms of teaching the ability to learn is an essential skill. Have you seen examples of either institutions or school districts that are doing it well that we could look to?
I haven't, and that's the problem, right? Is that we haven't seen a lot of schools to do that, right? It's in K-12, it's been about this is what you need to learn. This is the way you need to learn it. And it's more important than ever in K-12 to do it because our students are on their own. They're learning on their own already through hybrid models or online learning. So it's important to build those skills with students in K-12. In higher education, it's not as bad. I mean, obviously the whole premise of higher education is, you know, you're going to take a class, you're going to do a paper. I'm not going to tell you how long the paper needs to be, but you know, in general, it's okay. But even in those, you know, when I look through my students, when I look through my son's syllabuses, it's basically the same syllabus when I went to school. And that's at ASU, which is one of the most innovative colleges in the country. Oops, sorry about that. And so this idea of being able to learn on your own is absolutely essential. And we don't give our students that opportunity very often.
So Russ asked a kind of a follow-up question to that. What are the steps that colleges and universities should be taking to move from the traditional degree-centric to more focus on teach how to learn environment?
Let me close my door real quick.
So folks, I see there are a couple questions in the chat, and we'll get to those. So keep the questions coming. Really appreciate it. It builds some great dialogue.
Sorry about that. The dogs have learned, they're becoming like, they've become so good at like learning how to open doors and come in when they're not supposed to. They're getting much better at it. I think that's an excellent question, right? What is the process that you go through to be able to do that, right? So I think that the most important thing to focus on is that our students don't necessarily know what they don't know, right? They don't know the process of learning. They don't know what they need to learn to do X. And so I think what we need to do in higher ed is give them the opportunity to figure that out. So I would start out universities with assessments. Like, who are you? What are the things that you know? What are the things that you believe? Just like my daughter came to me with not really knowing who she is, even though I could see what she was good at and what she was able to develop. Now, my 19-year-old son came to me, same situation, because he's in his second year. And he said, I think I'm going to be a political science major. And I said, political science, you don't even know who the governor is. No, you're not going to be a political science major, because he's guessing, right? And so we have an opportunity to get our students not to guess, but to really understand who they are. Think about all those great self-assessments you've done in your professional world, right? Like, this is Jamie. Jamie's not very detail oriented. Jamie's big picture thinking. Jamie's this, or like all of these characteristics about who you are and how you work and how you work with others and all these other kinds of assessments we've done. Why are we waiting until we're like in our 30s to do those assessments? We should be doing those assessments many times over our life. At 18 years old is a great place to start. You're starting out. What do you know about yourself that you don't know? So I would start with that idea of, I'd have a whole class on who are you? What's your story? And so students can learn about the things that they're passionate about, the way they like to work, the way they like to do things, how they like to take in information, right? All those different things are absolutely critical, right? So that's number one. The second thing that universities need to do is change the model from, here are our different academic programs, right? So here is accounting. Take all these accounting classes and then go find a job, versus go find something you're passionate about. Go find something a problem that you want to solve, and then let's figure out what you need to know throughout the whole spectrum to handle that problem, right? And so it's a different angle to it. Again, the model comes from the old world, which is jobs didn't change that much. Jobs were very stable. And so what I would like to see is this opportunity of skill development for work, but also across disciplines, right? So that to me is one of the value propositions of higher education, which is that you have expertise. You have people in different areas that are experts in lots of different areas. And so why are we taking one student and limiting them to like one track, right? Accounting, when they could be taking humanity classes and history classes and whatever they want based on what they're passionate about, and that they can create this cross-disciplinary program that they can learn, right? That to me is the most interesting thing that we can do in higher education. And the truth is, there's not a lot of universities that are doing that well.
So that really leads to Joanna's question that she posed early on, that, these types of programs like the humanities and social sciences are being defunded. Why do you think that is, and what could we do to reinvigorate them?
Yeah, because we think that all the jobs are going to be in the tech sector, right? And so we're focused on building these technology jobs, which is fine. But again, if you look at the whole history of technology and where it's headed, it's not long before computers start programming themselves, right? Like, that's not, I mean, if you take your phone basically fixes itself, right? Your phone does an automatic update. So some engineer somewhere writes some code that takes the next version of whatever the bug is in your software package on your phone, fixes it, right? Creates a new version 10.1.1.4, and then electronically beams it to your phone. How far do you think we are away from your phone doing that itself? Right? Where you don't need that programmer to do that. Where the phone is identifying the bug itself and then debugging it and fixing itself. So you never have to do it. You never have to have a coder do that for you. We're not that far from that. So all these tech jobs, they're great. They're great. But just like everything else, it's a temporary thing. So yes, there's amazing opportunities in technology and in computer science. Like the world, if you want to make a couple $1 million pretty quick, go get a degree in data management, data mining. Go get a degree in data science. Go get a degree in cybersecurity. Absolutely. But 10 years from now, what are the jobs going to be? And so these humanities courses, these human skills, those are where the value is, because computers are going to be able to do all the technology stuff themselves. What we need to do is understand that the human mind is, for a long time, going to be better than the computer mind when it comes to problem solving and critically thinking and thinking outside the box and thinking about things in a different way and having different perspectives and being more experimental and those types of skills, those entrepreneurial skills. And so we need to have funding for that kind of education, because the technology jobs are great, but it's a temporary fix. And sometimes we just think in temporary ways.
Yeah, I think that's really key. Norma also asks a really provocative question. So we're challenged in the gatekeeper courses to allow for the freedom of learning. How do we change the mindset to overcome the learning in these particular courses?
Right. That's a great question. And I like to look at that question from a different perspective, which is universities still think they're in charge. Here's the problem. I've just launched, I've been at Google, I was at Google for 15 years. I soft launched 3 companies in the last couple of months that we'll talk more about in some videos coming up. But if I want to hire someone for my company, what if I could do my own assessment? What if I could do my own determination of that person's knowledge, skills, and abilities? And I don't have to rely on a piece of paper or a certificate that said they went to Santa Clara and graduated from Santa Clara with a degree in business. What if I can determine based on the role that I want to fill, what is their knowledge? What is their skill? What is their ability? More importantly, what is their potential? What are they bringing me? A resume, which I haven't done in 20 years, and if you ask me for a resume, we're probably not talking the same language. A resume is a history book. A resume is a piece of paper that tells me what you've done. I could care less what you've done. I care more about what you can do and what you're going to do, what your potential is, what your next level is, because things move way too fast. So if you are on your resume really, really good at Windows 95, I don't care, right? And so what I want to be able to do is understand a person's knowledge, skills, and abilities. So if I can do that, imagine I can determine or not, and I don't care where they went to school. I don't care what classes they took. I don't care how many classes that they took. I can determine their knowledge, skills, and abilities, their potential, and I can bring them on board. That's coming. That's around the corner. I know about 3 different startups that are working on that idea right now. And so when we figure that part out, the value proposition of higher education is no longer you are certifying that this student went to your school for 4 years and got a degree in this subject, and because of our high standards, tested really well in exams. That goes away. And so higher education needs to look at that model and say, what's our value proposition? And that's my point, is that there is a huge value proposition. It's expertise on campus. It's the ability to understand how much information is out there and that you can help students curate that information and make sense of that information and bucket that information in exciting and interesting ways, because it's no longer about access to information. It's about what you do with the information. The value proposition of having expertise on campus that can help students in different subjects and develop different skills. The value proposition of the network that you have with internships and other universities and other partnerships where students can get experience and have experiential learning, right? That's the value proposition of higher education. Not that Jamie went to SUNY Brockport and has a bachelor's degree in political science. How relevant is my bachelor's degree in political science from SUNY Brockport in 1991 today? So it's a way to think about it in a different perspective.
So how do students then, our graduates, people who complete our programs, how do they then convey that information? So if we give them these rich experiences and valuing their perspectives, how do we help them communicate that out to the marketplace, to industry, so that, what are some ideas you have for, moving away from the traditional transcript and resume?
Right.
What are ways we help them communicate that?
Portfolios, right? I want to see what you've done. I want to see progression in what you do. And so, for example, like my daughter, when she got her job, she didn't get her job because she had a degree in film, even though that helped, because not the degree in help didn't get her a job. The degree in film helped her build the skills that she needed to get a job. What got her a job in film is her portfolio, is being able to see what she's done. So on her website are all her films and all the things that she's put together and all the different work that she's done. She would never get a job working in film with a piece of paper that said she got a degree in film, right? There's just no way of doing it. So what is the portfolio? And there isn't a job or an industry that doesn't have a portfolio. And it doesn't have to be a public portfolio. It doesn't have to be, you can, I don't know why I keep bringing up accounting, maybe because I'm in the process of looking for one, but you can be an accountant and you can have a resume in accounting and the type of work that you've done, but you can also have a collection of projects that you worked on that aren't public, right? They're not out in public. They're your collection of different projects that you worked on, or there's examples of what you were able to do, or that kind of work. And again, it depends on the industry and depends on what you've done. Sometimes in jobs like accounting, in jobs in hard sciences, you do need a piece of paper because there are certification programs and you have to have a degree and you have to have these things. Absolutely. Look, I don't want the person who's going to operate on me to be a humanities major. I want them to have I want them to have a medical degree, right? I want to know that they went and studied really hard for a very long time and passed lots of tests, right? Like I get that. But when we're talking about these other types of jobs, and by the way, even when in a medical profession, I still want them to be humans, right? I still want them to solve problems, especially in medicine, in outside the box thinking, right? Like that's important as well. So it's not that they're not important. It's just that they become as important as the other certifications that you go through. So I think what we need to do is help our students develop their reputation, right? So I joke about how, my resume, every once in a while I'll go speak at a conference and they'll say, can you send me a list of, presentations that you've done before? And I'm like, just, Google me, right? If you can't do that, then we probably shouldn't work together, right? So this idea that my stuff's out there, my portfolio is out there. It doesn't mean that I don't have to collect it myself. And that's what I'm in the process of doing, is putting together a website with the different types of work that I've done and my portfolio of work and my presentations that I've done, or the kinds of projects that I've led. I get that, right? It's this idea of a portfolio. So when I'm talking to people about working with me, I'm not looking at their degree. I'm not looking at their certificate. I'm looking at their portfolio, whatever that looks like.
Fantastic. So Terry asked, kind of on a more operational perspective, what kind of experience, what does that mean for budgeting between student and academic affairs, particularly in the realm of advising? Because this kind of changes that academic and student affairs paradigm.
Sure.
And the way that, they interact and the way we serve students.
Sure, absolutely. And the way we need to think about all of this is what's in the best interest of the student, right? The one lesson I learned in my 15 years at Google that I will take with me, and there's lots of things that you learn in corporate America, but the one thing I will take away from my time at Google, among many things, is this idea of focusing on your, in technology we call them users, in the business world we call them customers, in education we call them students. But what's in the best interest of your student? What is the best for your student? And then let's create processes around that. And oftentimes what we do is we try to make our students fit into our processes. And we have to stop doing that, right? And so that question, baked into that question is, oh no, that can't work because I have these processes in place. And therefore, how do I fit my student into my process? And the reality is that it has to be the other way around. So as an example, think about this. My 19-year-old is hating school right now. He hates the online experience. He hates sitting in he's not in a dorm, he's in an apartment. He's in an apartment sitting in his bedroom taking online classes, and he sits there for 6 hours a day and is miserable. Now, some students thrive in that environment. I myself love being enclosed in my cave. If you would have told me 9 months ago, listen, you can't go anywhere, you can't fly anywhere, you got to stay by yourself, no one can visit you, and you can't go visit anywhere, I'd be like, oh, this is heaven, right? For some students, that's not good. For him, that's not good. He doesn't like it. So I have to tell him, hey, listen, this isn't working for you right now. So let's do this. Why don't you pause this and go find experience? Go work. He's also a film guy. Go find a nonprofit that needs some storytelling. Go to Japan, go to Latin America, go somewhere for the next 6 months and build some skill, build some experience. Why isn't the university not going to him and telling him that? Why isn't the university setting that up for him, as opposed to him just quitting and not going back next semester? These are the missing opportunities that we have in front of us, is to create these customizable programs from a career services perspective for our students, checking in with them and seeing how this fits, because this online world doesn't work for everyone. So let's find the students it works for and let's support them. And then let's find the students it doesn't work for and let's find alternatives, as opposed to just buckle up and take it. And even him, because of the society that we live in, it took me 15 minutes to convince them that I wasn't kidding, that I wasn't joking, when I said, no, I will totally support you going and spending 6 months in Latin America and working for a nonprofit and doing storytelling and learning and living there. And we'll cover it just like we would cover college, right? That's the opportunity that we have, is focusing on our student and what's in the best interest for our students.
So our last question is from Gretchen. What is or are good interview questions that as employers we can use to really tease out these kinds of skills and experiences?
It's great. So what's always funny for me, in 15 years at Google, I've done thousands of interviews, and the most interesting thing to me is that I, as the SUNY Brockport graduate, and by the way, in the history of SUNY Brockport, there's been one person that worked at Google. And I'm the one who is asking what we call the general cognitive ability questions, right? So we have 4 categories. When Google interviews, they interview for 4 categories. None of this is private information, by the way. This is all public, right? So it's general cognitive ability, leadership, role-related knowledge, and whether or not they're googly, whatever that means, culture fit. Those are the 4 categories. And for me, I've interviewed in all the categories, but the majority of my interview experience is in a general cognitive ability. And all I'm trying to figure out is if you're smart. And it's just the most basic questions of, like, a friend of yours, you live in Phoenix, and a friend of yours is opening up a bakery and wants your help in figuring out where the best place and best timing and what it should look like. How do you help that person? It's just, how do you process things? How do you break things down? How do you get information, right? So general cognitive ability. The leadership questions are really collaborative, right? They're about collaboration. It's, can you lead? Can you take a step back and let someone else lead? Can you collaborate well with others? Can you work, just basic questions around that. And then the role related knowledge is basic questions of, like, look, if you want to work in marketing, you should probably know things about marketing. So my son, right, if he said, I want to be a political science major, I'd start with, who's the president? And if they can't answer that question, then probably political science isn't for them, right? More importantly, what I would ask my son is, can you name the 3 last political campaigns that you participated in and volunteered in? And if they can't, then political science is probably not for them, right? That it's just ways to break down what someone's telling you to what they actually think or how they think about something.
That's excellent. Thank you. And I want to thank you for your time. And folks, I want to thank you for your outstanding questions. What a great way to kick off the next 2 weeks and all the rich dialogue. So Jaime, thank you for your time and for inspiring us this morning. And do check out his website. It's a great way to spend a snowy afternoon. I speak from experience.
Thank you very much for having me.
Take good care, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your conference. Thank you again, Jamie.
Bye.